Hi guys, it's June here, and yes, I am back. And what happier occasion to return than for Halloween? I'm super excited with today's episode because I am presenting this in collaboration with Booktique. As you guys know, I fully trust my good friend Anthony to create some amazing books for all occasions, and he has not failed me. And he will not fail me, and he has put together 13 titles that I will be presenting to you on my channel, and also you guys would get a code so that you get a special offer when you place your order through Booktique. So let's get rolling. In the autumn of 1965, Bohumil Hrabal bought a weekend cottage in the countryside east of Prague. There, until his death, he tended to an ever-growing unruly community of cats. This is his confessional, tender and shocking meditation on the joys and torments of his life with them. How he became increasingly overwhelmed by the demands of the things he loved, and even to the brink of madness. The confessional memoir opens with a lament from the author's wife that goes on and on. Put yourself in Hrabal's shoes. What would you do if you have cats and then they give birth to more cats and more cats and more cats until they practically take over your life? This is hardly the predicament for most pet owners, and I know a lot of you out there are pet owners. And the common way out is, of course, to find new homes for these pets of yours. Hrabal tries, but the cats just keep coming back to haunt him. Haunted by past and present guilt about the things that he's done to all his cats, Hrabal's mind becomes engulfed by paranoia. From thinking about those cats, he begins to imagine himself as the cats, begging for mercy from their killer. While the synopsis implies that it isn't going to be a heartwarming cat story, it does not preempt the readers the horror that is to follow. The explicit imagery aside, what made this memoir doubly disturbing are the sporadic signs of the author's mental breakdown. Bohumil Hrabal was one of the finest Czech writers. If you are new to his works, it is recommended that you start with All My Cats. Hrabal will hold your hands as he invites you into his psyche and his country cottage in 1965, where the maniac started and raved. It's always the 1960s, isn't it? Guys, for me, I feel that this is a scary book in a sense that what you are fighting against is not even something that is external. This is not poltergeist, the conjuring, that sort of situation where things are flying out of the kitchen drawers. Not that that is not scary, that is scary. But why this is even scarier sometimes, it's because it is happening within the person and having absolutely no control to stop it, except to just spiral out of control and right down into deep, deep, deep darkness. Okay, now to book number 2. Cassandra Core's Nothing But Blackened Teeth is a gorgeously creepy haunted house tale steeped in Japanese folklore and full of devastating twists. Oh, hooray! First of all, haunted house. You know, no horror collection is complete without something of a haunted house being involved. And combined with Japanese folklore, what? A Heian mansion stands abandoned, its foundations resting on the bones of a bride, and its walls packed with the remains of the girls sacrificed to keep her company. It's the perfect venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends brought back together to celebrate a wedding A night of food, drinks, and games quickly spirals into a nightmare as secrets get dragged out and relationships are tested. But the house has secrets too. Lurking in the shadows is the ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart. And she gets lonely down there in the dirt. First of all, guys, I know you can be a bunch of thrill-seeking friends, but do we really have to go to a haunted house to celebrate a wedding? Yeah, of course, you gotta. Effortlessly turning the classic haunted house story on its head, Nothing But Blackened Teeth is a sharp and devastating exploration of grief, the parasitic nature of relationships, and the consequences of our actions. I like the sound of this book. Anything with a happily never after ending is my kind of read. Beethoven's Skull. Dark, strange, and fascinating tales from the world of classical music and beyond, by Tim Rayborn. Seriously, I would not have thought that classical music and horror would make a good combination, but hey, here we are. Proving that good music and shocking tabloid-style stories make excellent bedfellows, Beethoven's Skull presents tales of revenge, murder, and curious accidents and strange fates that span more than 2,000 years in the world of classical music. Revenge and murder, yep, all the good stuff that you find in people and in a horror book. Highlights include a cursed song that kills those who hear it, a composer who lovingly cradles the head of Beethoven's corpse when his remains are exhumed half a century after his death. Nice! A 15th century German poet who sings of the real-life Dracula. A dream of the devil that inspires a virtuoso violin piece. Unlike many music books that begin their histories with the 17th or 18th centuries, Beethoven's Skull takes the reader back to the world of ancient Greece and Rome, progressing through the Middle Ages and all the way into the 20th century. It also looks at the myths and legends, superstitions, and musical mysteries, detailing the ways that musicians and their peers have been rather horrible to one another over the centuries. Now, I find this fascinating because, especially for those of you guys who are music students, right? Like whether you're learning the piano, the violin, the trombone, whatever. I think we all look at all these classical musicians of the past, like we look at them as some kind of heroes, right? Because we are inspired by their music. We are so in awe of their talent and all that. But at the end of the day, they're also human, and we can be pretty horrible people sometimes. And I think this book it's an interesting look into that world. Before we talk about this book, let's take a moment to appreciate the cover. For those of you who are a 70s and 80s kid, these kind of cover would be so familiar to you. Apart from reading things like Sweet Valley High, all those Nancy Drew mystery, and the more, light stuff, this really is a blast from the past. Paperbacks from Hell chronicles the history of the horror paperback publishing boom that started in the early 70s with the release of Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, and The Other, and died in the early 90s as the serial killers lured horror publishing into their murder basements. That is so true. I am a true crime fan, as you guys know, and serial killers, they're the thing now. Not that you should become one, listen to podcasts about them and watch documentaries about them. Do not become them, okay? Page through dozens and dozens of amazing book covers featuring well-dressed skeletons, evil dolls, and knife-wielding killer crabs. Read shocking plot summaries that invoke devil worship, satanic children, and haunted real estate. But of course, haunted real estate, no collection would be complete without some haunted real estate. Complete with story summaries and artists and author profiles, this unforgettable volume dishes on familiar authors like V.C. Andrews and R.L. Stine, plus many more who have faded into obscurity. Also included are recommendations for which of these forgotten treasures are well worth your reading time and which should stay buried. It's never too early to start shopping for Christmas, and I think this is a fantastic book for any of your friends who are into pop culture of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Red X by David Demchuk. A hunted community, a haunted author, a horror that spans centuries. Men are disappearing from Toronto's gay village. They're the marginalized, the vulnerable. One by one, stalked and vanish. They leave behind small circles of baffled, frightened friends against the shifting backdrop of homophobia throughout the decades, from the HIV/AIDS crisis and riots against raids to gentrification and police brutality. The survivors face inaction from the law and disinterest from society at large. But as the missing grow in number, those left behind begin to realize that whoever or whatever is taking these men has been doing so for longer than is humanly possible. Now, I am guessing this has something to do with the supernatural. I have not read this book yet, but if something is spanning centuries, I can only make the assumption that it is not human. I've actually heard a CBC series Uncover called The Village. It is a fascinating series. After listening to that podcast, I wouldn't say I know everything. There's still much to be learned, but I am quite aware of some of the pain and the struggle that the gay community has gone through. And this book, I think, is a combination of fact and fiction, which is what I love. And I think it would make a fantastic read. For those of you probably not 100% into something that's going to be a complete spook fest, but with a little bit of crime and thriller involved, I think this book has a wonderful combination of both. And I would definitely look forward to reading this. Reality and other stories. Household gizmos with a mind of their own, constant cold calls from unknown numbers, and the creeping suspicion that none of this is real. Reality and Other Stories by John Lanchester is a gathering of deliciously chilling entertainments, stories to be read as the evenings draw in and the days are haunted by all the ghastly schlock, uncanny technologies, and the absurd horrors of modern life. I think this is a collection of stories of horrors found in everyday things. If you're not in the mood for a long, drawn-out novel, this would be something for you this Halloween. Short stories to keep you entertained and keep you spooked for the season. And that's it for part one of our Halloween special, a collaboration with our friends from Booktique. Now remember, you will receive a free Penguin Little Black Horror classic of your choice when you make an order of 40 Singapore dollars or more using the promo code Bull Spooktique. That's all for part one. Be sure you stay tuned for part two for more gorgeously ghoulish reads. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and show Anthony some love. Order some or all of these books from Booktique and use the promo code Bull Spooktique. Until I see you again, remember to be kind and be brave. Bye!